The historical Antichrists, or Dajjal, have existed since the time of the prophets, until the time when Mshīḥa Dagalā, an Antichrist, will come at the end of time. The first name, Antichrist, and the second name may also carry anti-Imperial tones. Irenaeus ultimately refrained from further speculation, stating that it was the Holy Spirit who decided not to reveal the name of the Antichrist. The term Dajjal is widely known in relation to eschatology, or discussions about the end times. Ironically, this term is unfamiliar to Christians but more familiar to Muslims, as it is mentioned in hadiths narrating the descent of Isa, Jesus, son of Mary, in the end times. The first to use the term Dajjal were Middle Eastern Christians. The Arabic term Dajjal is borrowed from Syro-Aramaic Dagalā, or its full form Mshīḥa Dagalā, derived from the term Mshīḥa Dagalā, meaning false messiah or anti-messiah. Syro-Aramaic is a development of Aramaic, the everyday language of the Messiah, the Blessed Virgin Mary, and his noble apostles. Origin of the word Dajjal. The term Dagalā comes from the root word Dajjal, meaning false, deceiver, liar, or impostor, based on this dual meaning. When associated with Mshīḥa the Messiah, the word Dagalā in Koine Greek can mean pseudo-Christ as well as Antichrist. It is also noteworthy that Dagalā, as the very words of Jesus, have been copied into the original texts of the New Testament, as pseudo-false, appearing only twice in the New Testament in the plural form. Meanwhile, Dagalā has been copied as anti or against, appearing 5 times, once in the plural form Antichrist or many Antichrists, in 1 John 2:18, and 4 times in the singular form Antichrist as Antichrist, in 1 John 2:18, 22 for 2:3, and to John 1:7. So there are 2 plural forms for Dajjal in Greek, namely pseudo-Christ Matthew 20 for 24, false messiahs, and Antichristoi 1 John 2:18. Many Antichrists, both referred to as Mshīḥa Dagalā and Peshitta. They are the ones who oppose the Messiah and his teachings, except in Mark 13:22. The plural form pseudo-Christ in Peshitta corresponds to Mshīḥa Dagalā, opponents of the Messiah, with no difference in meaning. The only case where the Greek term Antichristos is retained in the Peshitta text is into John 1-7, which is transliterated into Syro-Aramaic script as Antichrist. This term in the singular form, Mshīḥa Dagalā, is often interpreted in eschatological terms, referring to the singular figure of Mshīḥa Dagalā eschatologically, while the plural term Mshīḥa Dagalā and Mshīḥa Dagalā are used to refer to false teachings, namely historical Dajjals, that have existed since the time of the apostles until the time of Mshīḥa Dagalā 1 John 2:18. An Antichrist will come in the end times. Paul did not use the term Antichrist, but into Thessalonians 2:3 and the following verses, he writes about the man of lawlessness, ho anthropos tes hamartias, man of sin, which clearly refers to the same being. The characteristic of this being is that he opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. He is not Satan himself, but his coming is the work of Satan. There are still difficulties in these verses that are not clear, especially regarding who the man of lawlessness is, which is still debated. But for our purposes, his teaching is clear enough. Paul is thinking about Satan's most powerful effort, not in the past, but in the future. He is thinking not of a world gradually improving to perfection, but a world in which evil continues to increase until the end times. Then evil will launch its most powerful resistance against goodness. This opposition will be led by a strange being whose power comes from Satan, who is Satan's instrument in his ultimate rebellion against God. Paul is confident about what will happen. Christ will destroy the rebel with the breath of his mouth. The fierce and final opposition of Satan will be completely eradicated? At least, that is the meaning of some of the imagery in the book of Revelation. Almost all scholars who study this book agree that some of the visions in Revelation point to the final struggle of evil powers against Christ. Sometimes the symbolism clearly points to Satan himself. Indeed, the great red dragon is equated with Satan.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. Revelation 12:3.
But the beast in Revelation 11:7 is not Satan, although closely related to Satan as evidenced by its actions.
And when they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them, and kill them. Revelation 11:7.
Regarding the Antichrist, Irenaeus notes passages like to Thessalonians 10-12 and much of Revelation 13. He interprets the number of the beast from Revelation 13:18 as a symbol of the total duration of the world. After providing a brief response on judgment, Irenaeus further explains the meaning of the number 666, stating that it symbolizes the pinnacle of evil throughout history. For him, the numeric designation of the Antichrist results from adding 600, the age of Noah at the time of the flood, to 60 and 6, representing the height and width of Nebuchadnezzar's statue. Irenaeus concludes his discussion by attempting to approach the true meaning of the number of the beast and the identity of the Antichrist. He rejects the variant text of Revelation 13:18 that mentions the number 616 and describes the coming of the Antichrist as violence originating from the tribe of Dan. Irenaeus is cautious in addressing questions about the name of the Antichrist, believing that prophecy is more important than gematria in recognizing him. Nevertheless, he mentions 3 names, each of which has the same exact number of letters as 666. The first name and the second name may also have anti-Imperial undertones. The first may be a Hellenization of the name Florus, and related to the figure of Gessius Florus, a hated procurator in Judea before the First Jewish War, while the second name may refer to the Emperor Titus, who participated in the conflict and destruction of the Jerusalem temple. The last name, associated with mythological giants, is discussed in detail. Irenaeus ultimately refrains from further speculation, stating that the Holy Spirit has chosen not to reveal the name of the Antichrist.